we're winning in influence, we're winning in income, we're moving in profitability. But it doesn't mean that every moment is a win, but there is a moment of winning in everything.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the Next Step podcast. I'm excited to bring you a very special guest today. Her name is Christine Campbell Rapin. She is a business mentor, consultant, and owner of the Clear Acceleration Incorporated, which is built on the belief, get this, that scalable growth doesn't have to be complicated or require you to work 24/7. It just requires that you have a clear business strategy, a deep understanding of the three non-negotiable business foundations that are going to fuel your new client growth for every business on the planet. Christine, I love everything about that intro. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I would love to hear the journey that you've been on that helped you develop these three non-negotiables that you believe all businesses need to have.
Yeah, it came through observation because it feels like I've been there my whole life. I've been educated in the world of business, and I never set out to mentor people. I want people to know that really clearly, because what I set out to be, and I am, is a great entrepreneur. And it was through that I built my first business working it as a side hustle 1 hour a day, and I was consistently growing net new client growth. And people kept saying, "What the heck is the secret?" I'm like, "What do you mean? Why are you guys working so hard?" And I don't mean that, I really was just like, "What's happening over there? It looks awful and painful." So I kept getting a lot of invitations for coffee or a glass of wine. And I said, "You're making business far more complicated than it needs to be. And you need the cheat sheet of the world of business." And I have worked with more than 400 clients in every industry. I've helped them create $1 billion. That's a B with a very lot of dollars next to it.
Yeah.
And it came down to when I started to see it, I said, "You guys have missed the business fundamentals. And without them, you can fake it for a while and you can get to six figures. You can, but it's really hard to sustain it without it destroying you in the process." And I am heartbroken just watching so many people struggle with this. So eventually people said, "I get it. I can see it. I watch you do it. I can't apply this to myself." That's where I started to get invited to a really respect to. "I'd like you to help me and I'd like to pay for your services." And it really came honestly quite out of the blue for me, because I was like, I didn't like what I saw in the coaching space, particularly business coaches in the coaching space, because most of them have not been in the fires that I have spent my career in. And as a consequence to that, I said, I'm not really comfortable with being tarred, in my opinion, by that brush. And so I went to a mentor of mine who said, "Yeah, but if you were given $10,000, you would solve a $100,000 problem. So go be accepting the invitation you're asked to receive." And that's how I got here.
Oh my gosh, I
Experience.
love it. And isn't this funny? Like you hit the nail on the head. Sometimes what we think is so easy, it doesn't occur to us that it is not natural for others, and vice versa. Things that we are like, this boggles my mind, like cooking. I can't cook to save my life. And someone else is like, oh my gosh, what do you mean? You can't
Yeah.
just smell the spices and know? No, I can't. But if you want me to set up a system, a funnel, maybe that's my job. Like it's my jam. So it's just kind of funny. Oh, I love that you said that. So, can you share with us is the secret? What are the three non-negotiables that we need to have?
Yeah, I can. And what I'm going to do is preface it before. You need to understand, first off, how to win in business, because like if you don't know this. So I always tell my clients, 70% of your time, get really focused on the two things that grow your business. Otherwise, you're wasting your effort in a complete spin cycle. So now that leads us into the non-negotiables, because every business actually needs 5 foundations. But if you don't have the first 3, you cannot get to 4 and 5. So I never talk about 4 and 5 unless you're a client of mine, because cart before the horse. But number 1 is, who is your next buyer? How do you identify them and how do you attract them? And your whole world of marketing out there has convinced you that the answer is an avatar who is demographically described, which is pretty useless, because I don't know how you find them that way.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel so validated right now because I've been preaching how much I hate the avatar exercise forever. Thank you.
And the avatar will help you write copy. It will help you pick experiences, but it will not help you find your next buyer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Quite controversial, but strongly held opinion. So the first pillar is actually, who is the buyer that you want to intersect? And most businesses, even at that multiple 6 figures, often really struggle, because if you do not have consistent net new client growth, you have a problem not understanding your buyer. You haven't made a position on it. So that's the first pillar. Second pillar is, how do you move somebody predictably from curiosity to paid client?
Mm.
And that is strategy. And what I often see to people is that you can pick any tactic you like. You can build a funnel, you can do SEO, you can have a website, you can speak, you can network. You like, I've got 25 recommendations. All of them are working
Mhm.
right now to build money for people in business. What's important, is you can connect the dots. So
Yes.
I tell people we have to focus on movement. Where are you moving them to, and how do we keep the momentum in play? Because an object in motion stays in motion versus one that's constantly starting from zero. And when I looked at my peers back at that first story, they were doing the hokey pokey, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, constantly starting from zero. Okay, that's optional. And the dance is cool and you got some good moves, but it's crazy. Stop it.
You're not getting anywhere. Oh my gosh, thank you. Oh, I'm literally like, I feel like I've had this conversation with clients, and I'm like, so I just feel very, very validated. Okay,
I love it.
continue.
So you have to have the ability to move somebody with messaging. And the third way that you get to stay at the table is around the offer, which is how do you create value to the buyer as perceived by the eyes of the buyer? And can you communicate what makes you the must hire to achieve that result? Only what matters is what the buyer sees, perceives, and wants. And what's really, really important, why most clients hire me, is because when I say this statement that feels like a dagger and it sits really close to home. Are you the likable expert or are you the must hire expert? This is the third piece of the puzzle because so many people get caught being the likable expert. And you can do a lot of things in marketing and in movement that get you no results. And that's why I said you can step off the crazy train. And it's really important. The questions are elegantly simple.
Yeah.
You are so simplified by the questions that you skate right past them. And at some point, though, you have to go answer them because it is the strategy that frames repeatable success. And so if you don't have one, or you've lost sight of it and you're not clear, who are you? What do you stand for? Why would I hire you? How do you want to win? And what do you need to do that? It's the long way around the block.
Yeah.
So that's what I do with my clients. I tell them there are 3 things we have to do: build and identify the next buyer, build a predictable machine, a client growth engine to move somebody from curious to paid client, stay at the table by creating value, because anybody else is going, what was 4 and 5? Because I want to know. Number 4 is you have to be able to influence. That's self, people, team, and clients to get the results, because results are the only thing people will pay for. And the 5th thing is the only way you stay in the game is if you're making profit, because profit is the most critical number in your business. Not the only number, but it is the one that says you can fund the lifestyle you want.
Absolutely. And that's just it. I love how I'm just gonna hop back. You said if you're not doing what you need to do to get new clients, you have a really expensive hobby. And I think that's the thing where people are like, but I see I have revenue. You do have revenue, but if your expenses exceed your revenue, you're not making money. And this is not a business. It is a really expensive hobby. It doesn't matter that you have LLC tacked on to the end of it. That is not what makes it a business. So I love that you said that. And then even the whole thing about the vanity metrics. So I was on a mastermind call and I was talking about my subscriber email list. I'm in the current position of transitioning and kind of up leveling those services. And I was talking about my subscriber list not being my ideal client, but I love my open rate. My open rate gives me such like this flutter because my subscribers love me. And she was like, yeah, but your open rate does not pay your bills. And I was like, oh,
It's all about the onion, right? Like first you have to have an email list, then you have to know what's happening in it, then
yeah.
you have to know how healthy it is and are you converting out of it? And
Yep.
this is the interesting thing for anybody that like I grew up in the world of business, so I'm used to the metric language.
Mhm.
And yet even me, I said there's a key position and it's a big distinction. The first thing is, do you treat your business like a business? Because that was my answer when people kept buying me coffees and glasses of wine. I said, I treat my business like a business and you treat it like a hobby. You're constantly starting from zero. And I have committed 1 hour and I'm staying in the game at that 1 hour.
Mhm.
Even if it meant 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here, very rarely was it 60 minutes when I first started in a succession. So let me call you out on that. It's possible. But then the question is, do you treat your business like a business or do you run it like a business? Which is the numbers never lie.
Yeah.
Business is math, and you need to know what to look for to be able to say, so what? Which is one of those elegantly simple questions I ask myself 1,000 times a day, and my clients maybe 10,000 times a day.
Mhm.
Sounds good. Is it true? So what?
Yes.
You've had all these great meetings. Did you make any offers? You met all these people. Are any of them your ideal buyers? So
Right.
what's happening in terms of how are we moving people forward? Do we say yes to this decision or no to that decision? Depends on, well, what was our outcome and what was our KPI? And they'll look at me and go, I said, that's what it looks like running a business. They go, I feel really foreign in your space. I said, but you can feel foreign, but I live in here like a duck in water.
Hmm.
So that's why I said I'm a mentor and a thinking partner to say, let me teach you as needed the skills of business. But to be fair, time with me is working and treating your business as a business and being run as a business.
Hmm.
And we're going to have some candid conversations because you told me this was worth it. I
Yeah.
ask my clients really simply, my job is not to light your fire. My job is to be a fuel source to the fire you've already lit.
Oh my gosh. I love that. Oh my gosh. I just love that so much because it is. And your personality is so the kind that I identify with, which is like, I don't need, I'm not going to sugarcoat it because the fact of the matter is that sugarcoating it doesn't make a sour pill actually taste any better. It just makes it taste like sour with sugar on it. Like it's still not good. So let's just cut it and just get to it and
And
we'll
I'm
get over
advocating for
faster.
you. Like,
Yes.
I will hold your dreams. Like, I mean, it's beautiful. Like, I'm shotgun on your business.
Mhm.
I'm your business bestie, but I'm saying, is it true? Do you want it? And the thing that's the best way you can sleep at night is I actually have your best interest at heart.
Yeah.
Because whatever you've decided is the goal line, you've communicated it to me. I didn't set it for you. I am
Yes.
going to challenge you because a lot of businesses, you said revenue and profit earlier, and what's your expenses versus your cost of business. So many people get caught thinking I want a six-figure business and they think it's this awesome goal. And to be fair, 12% of the business industries are getting to 12%. It's shockingly low. And
Mhm.
people think that that's the yardstick. And I'm like, that's the starting block. Because as a business owner running at $100,000, you're going to take conservatively, depending on where you live in the world, 30% of that for tax. So now you're at 70. Now you have your operating costs, which even if you're doing a computer, an internet, a Zoom account, and maybe some one other thing, you're going to now be down 10 grand. Well, now you're at $60,000. Well, have
Mhm.
you paid yourself? Have you done all these other things? And suddenly it's like, I got paid more in my job. I said, that's why you have an expensive hobby.
Yeah.
And they suddenly start to look at this, and I said, and that's not even including adding accelerants like marketing, branding, SEO, an online business manager, an integrator in your team.
Yeah.
And suddenly it's like, why do I feel so exhausted working 24/7? And what was this for? And I said, you've created this, but the awesome thing is you can also change it.
Hmm.
And it will help to have somebody in your business who lives in the world of business, who has your best interest at heart, saying, let's ask the questions that need to be asked, because the outcome of working with someone like me, and me specifically as a mentor, is not only will you have a client growth engine, because that's the deliverable.
Hmm.
My job is to help you make more confident decisions as a business owner, to know who you are as a business owner, so that you can say, I want that client, or no, hell no, I don't want to go play over there. And those are equally important decisions.
Yes, because every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to how many other things? Because now you're working with a less than ideal, and we've all done it, right?
Oh,
I
all of
don't
us.
think there's anybody who's ever started a business and hasn't either worked for less than they were worth or worked with someone that was less than ideal because they needed the money, right? It's part of the what do you call it when
Rite
you're
of
in a
passage.
fraternity? Yeah, it's the rite of passage. Like it's the hazing process that you have to go through to like get the badge, right? But we don't want to stay there. And the idea is that you have to pass that. And some of the experiences that I've had with clients is that they're so used to living in that struggle that they almost don't want to move out of it. As much as they hate it, it is their comfort zone. And
Well, yeah,
when I present things to them, like in order to, we need to implement this, they're like, oh, but no, but we're doing this over here. I'm like, yeah, but that's not working. It's a scatter shot. We're doing all these things. We have to zoom in on one thing. But no, I want to make sure that we're growing all these platforms and reaching all these people. Nobody knows you're talking to them because you're talking to everybody.
that's right. And the truth is, we do believe that it has to be hard. I'm going to challenge you. It is not hard. It is simple.
Mhm.
It's not effortless. And so, would you rather be focused on the effort of the rings that are going to deliver the results? And I say to people, I'm not tied to the tactics you choose, because my job is to connect marketing, sales, and operations so that you have a profitable business. That's the
Oh my
goal,
gosh.
right?
Absolutely.
And that's the challenge when you are only seeing the forest for the trees. And I say you can step out of overwhelm, because the number one conversation that comes up most repeatedly with my clients is, my job as your mentor is to ask capacity questions. because capacity is one of the 4 questions of strategy. And so just even today, I was with a client and I said, we're talking about business and models and offers and where we're leading people to, because we're in an evolution, her and I working together for the first couple months, and we're still in that sprinting stage. So I want you to think about where you want to spend your capacity in a typical given month, because there is limits to your current number of hours you want to work. And you can solve capacity with team and processes and technology and all kinds of things. But this is the lifestyle that you want. So let's talk about what the capacity is. And from that point, we make trades and decisions. So I am not talking about constantly just adding more. If you were living in the more cycle, that is because you've created the yeses in your head. And that's optional. I just want you to know it's an optional choice. You can take a course correction. And so this morning I said, I want you to sit and tell me what you think, because this isn't something I want you to just answer quickly. I want you to answer quickly and then really sit with the answers so that we can say, I really want to call this type of work. And this is where my energy source comes from. Like, I love this type of client work. And yet this I need from a financial stability point of view, because my bills come every month, whether I want them to or not. Like, that's just so they nastily happen, right? And it's like, okay, cool. But now what? What's your capacity? Because as the business then grows and clients come in, I said, if you are not having consistent client growth, net new client growth, 70% of your day should be spent on building your audience of buyers. 70% of the capable hours you're working. And I said, but when you're delivering and you've got great momentum and your business is flying at, your multiple 6 figures, and you may be seeing the possibility to go to 7. I said, but remember, you can't move from 70 to 0 and still have client growth. Clients graduate, clients get invited to leave, clients choose to leave your business, all kinds of dynamics are happening. And most business managers don't talk about that. I said, there's like some real truthfully harder, challenging conversations that will be happening in your business through its life. Just trust me on that. But then I said, I want you to stay at 50% of your available hours building an audience of buyers. And she's like watching her head explode. And I'm like, no, seriously, for you to have consistencies in years 3 and 5 and 10 and whatever you want in your business, 50% we're still staying there. So every time you bring in a client, that means 1 less hour of new people you could be meeting. There's also trade there. So sit with it, because it's solvable, but it comes from personal choices. And that's why I said the delivery and the kind of the spillover big halo of my mentorship is you'll make that decision and go, I'm good with it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I so love it. I feel like I just got coached. Like, that was just so amazing because, again, like, that's sort of, I'm working with my coach and sort of making this transition as an online business manager where I was sort of doing a one-to-many thing. Like, I'm going to pop in here for just 10 hours a month into your business. I'm going to pop in just 10 hours a month. And I've been so spread thin creatively and emotionally, and just my brain capacity trying to keep track of everybody's projects and everybody's team. And I had a breakdown on a coaching call. I mean, I'm in tears, bawling. And my coach was like, all right, I would just take a deep breath. What do you want? And I was like, I want to increase my revenue. Like, I have financial goals for myself to support my family, but I have got to work with less people. I can't keep this up, let alone take on new people. And she was like, okay, new business model. And
So
that's
different buyers, different value, and potentially we might be moving them in different ways.
Exactly. And that's exactly the whole, how do we do this messaging conversation, the switch? And then I've even had conversations with 2 of my clients where they could potentially move into this new ideal client that I have. But I was like, I'm giving you a heads up. This is where I'm headed. And there is, I don't want to say an expiration date on our time together, but this is the way I am moving and I want you to come with me. If that's not going to work, let's start making the steps to phase me out and get you somebody else in who's doing what I'm doing, because, I want you to be successful, but I want to be successful. And so thankfully both clients were like, oh no, we're going to figure this out. But the weight that came off my shoulders the minute I said that out loud was just, oh, it felt so good.
And this is one of the most important things to really hear is nobody wants to pay for your time. Like, the classic scaling roadblock is capacity. And then when we think about capacity, we think of dollars per hours. And we do back it out. A good business model is to figure out your net number and work backwards. So you can figure out what you really need from a building block perspective. And that's why I talk about foundations and the key pieces around it. But truthfully, capacity is a solvable problem, but nobody wants to pay for your time. So when I come into, when people come in to say, tell me what it's like to work with you, like, what does that look like? Well, one, you can find that information. It's public. Find out what it looks like to work with me. But I am not here to trade hours with you.
Yes.
And my programs and things are not developed that way, because what you're not doing is paying for an hour of me sitting in front of you. What you're paying for is the fact to help people create $1 billion. And no matter what's going on in your business, hey, nobody's paying their bills. Hey, I haven't made any offers. I got this opportunity. What do I do with it? Or this is weird. What do we think? That's the real reality of the day to day.
Yeah. You're paying for your experience and your knowledge and your strategic thinking.
Oh my hand, I'm not by myself. No, you're not. I'm your bestie here sitting in the shotgun. That's okay. We will ride this.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be honest, just transparency, the difficulty I have is that being the integrator, right? So you're the strategist and I'm strategy, but I'm the implementer, is that everybody wants to know, well, how many hours you can implement for me this month?
Yeah.
And so that's where that's the transition that I'm making, where I'm pulling out of this whole hourly, like I record everything on Toggle. I know exactly how many hours I spend on everybody's project. I'm so good at recording it, but it's like, that's not feasible for me anymore. I've gotten to a point where I'm like, I can't even track everything anymore. I'm in and out of so many projects in a day. I can't even keep up.
And what they're really, well, it's two things. If they're asking you really how many hours, then they're not probably the clients you want at the next stage of growth you're at, truthfully. It could be that you're meeting the buyer in the wrong intersection point. But it also could be just, all I need to know is a perspective in a month so I can move other dominoes around it. So it's like, it's not like how many hours I want to do, but you're saying I could get it to you by the 15th. Awesome. Doesn't mean whether you worked 100 hours to get to me to the 15th.
Yeah.
I don't really care, as long as I know what the price for the commitment deliverable is. I'm just saying, oh, the 15th will help me know to plan other things accordingly.
Yeah.
And that's a more elevated value statement. And when you can position yourself in that space, you're like, that's why I'm the must hire. I am able to deliver on the date. It doesn't matter how many hours you took to get there.
Oh, I'm going to write that down and like just say that to myself over and over again.
In the workspace.
Clip.
and that's where, that's where the experience that truly comes from, because I said, in the world of leadership, in the world of business leadership, and all of us as business owners are choosing a place of leadership because it just goes hand in hand, which is every day from morning to night, it's about managing expectations. So when someone says, how much does it cost to work with you? It's about managing the expectation. It's like, well, what's the ROI? I want to be able to know what my clients are. I said, we're delivering in the following expectations. You are constantly in a leadership role managing expectations. The first thing I would ask you to do is, why do you want it? Why is it non-negotiable? And what do you think is the fastest path there? And are you prepared to do the effort? Because I didn't say it would be hard. I told you it would be focused effort on the right things. And the fastest way to get focused effort on the right thing is to go and work and be in community with others who've been where you want to go.
Yeah.
And truthfully talk about the good and the bad, which is this weekend, we always want to win because we're winning in the marketplace, we're winning in influence, we're winning in income, we're moving in profitability. But it doesn't mean that every moment is a win, but there is a moment of winning in everything.
Oh,
hot mess. This will be really valued at some point.
I love that.
Try it out or have a piece of chocolate, but that's okay. And I always say to people, you can quit the field for an hour, but just decide you're going to be here tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so brilliant. That is so true. It is. Perspective is always, or hindsight, I should say, is always 2020. You can look back and be like, okay, that sucked, but I learned from it.
And in a storm, you need somebody else's perspective, because I always tell clients, anybody who comes into my space, there's only 3 reasons you don't have the business you want. Let me just tell you the simple answer. There's only 3, because the world is not that complicated. Number 1, you don't know how to build net new client growth. Well, you've been listening to our conversation, so now check that off the box. You know how. Buyers, message, value creation. That's how you do it. So you're no longer in that camp. Now you know how. You're like, I'm doing the how, but it's not working very well, or it's not working predictably, or it's very expensive and I'm not keeping enough profit. Well, truthfully, if you could change it on your own, you would. So you need another set of eyes. That's where a mentor would be a really good investment, because they will move you more quickly because you cannot see the forest for the trees, and you're missing something that small change could change everything. But that's the reason number 2. Something is off in the delivery. There's incongruent. Get a second set of eyes, the fastest way through that. The third reason, if you don't have the business you want, is that you want it, but you're not doing anything. And that means that it's not non-negotiable for you. And it's not somebody else's responsibility to drag you. They're not your manager. They're not your boss. You are an employee of your own business. It's up to you to do it.
Yeah.
And you can't be dragged. And
Yeah.
so when I see clients in that space or peers in that space, they'll it's when they say I'm a someday client, I said, I don't make offers to someday clients. I make
Hmm.
offers to people who are today clients. And that also is why I know when I'm the must hire. And I walk the talk that I teach my clients, and I guide my clients to deliver. But if you're listening to this, you should be hearing, what am I? Am I saying I don't know how? Or am I needing some fine tuning? Or I'm simply saying I'm waiting for it to be convenient.
Oh, oh, and that's just, I mean, bullseye right there, because I've worked with those people too, that they have the greatest ideas, but I'm like, okay, let's take the action. Ooh, they back right up again. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, we're going to move right on again. But thank you.
I heard a great comment yesterday from my mentor, and it was, one thing we don't talk about in business owners is that business is repetition. We talked about it being math, but it's also repetition. You have one offer, you deliver it over and over and over and over again. That's how you build mastery. That's why you get great, and that's why your profitability goes up.
Yeah.
A lot of people think, well, I just want to be a creator. I just want to be a creator. I just want to be a creator. So then no one knows who you are, what you stand for, and doesn't hire you. You become likable.
Mm.
A little dangerous in that camp. Delivers lots of great things as a human being, but not as a successful business owner. And she said, you know what, though, we've got to remember, if you're going to do something predictably over and over and over again, you never get bored when you're winning. So the
This is
reason you
true.
get bored is if you're not creating results. So
Yep.
boredom never happens when you're winning. And
Mhm.
it's not that we're saying win at all costs, but you're choosing the lane you want to play in. You're choosing how you go to market. You're choosing the systems that you have to say, I want to do this many, 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 many times.
Mhm.
And the energy is, I see the impact and money that flows and the gifts that my clients are then able to go conquer. And it's like, yeah, that never gets old, ever.
Oh, no, it does not. Oh my gosh, Christine, this was like a fire hose to my face of like so much value. Oh, this is incredible. And our half hour flew by.
It
Thank
did.
you so much for being here today. I'm not kidding. I'm just going to replay this podcast again and again for myself so I can like take notes and get all the goodness that just came from it. Where can people find you, work with you, all the things?
Yeah, come find me, ChristineCampbellRapin.com. Come find me there. You can connect to me in any way that you feel is appropriate. You'll get some free resources. You'll find out how I deliver my services. And ultimately, what do I stand for? A client growth engine.
I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.